Hi, this is ATO Black. I'm back again with another video. This video is going to be about closure. One thing about me, I was raised by a narcissistic father. My mother was probably borderline, and my stepmother was definitely antisocial, or maybe in a sociopath. So that's how I know how to deal with this. So once again, this is going to be about how to defeat the narcissist with closure. Unfortunately, the narcissist will not give you closure. They just won't. They want the ability to come back into your life whenever they feel like they are good and ready. And this is why they won't close the situation down. If you ever wondered, like, if you don't like me or if you don't really care too much for me, why don't you just leave me alone? Just go about your business. I go about mine. We have a good time. We enjoy life, without each other. But the narcissist cannot do that. They have to be in control. They have to win. They have to dominate. And if you close it or it's closed before you're like completely not used up, um, they just can't accept it. So the only way to get closure is by closing it yourself. Now, this is how you close a situation with a narcissist. You realize, one, that they are narcissists and that they cannot be helped. Once you realize that, you look at all the damage and all the stuff that they did to you and realize there's not going to be an apology for it. I sat around for years waiting for an apology from a narcissist and I never got one. You will too sit around for years waiting on an apology and you will not get one. So just never mind the apology. You just have to move on without it. Three, you have to understand that you have to close the situation, that you have to let go of what you thought was this wonderful relationship, the love bombing stage when you thought this person was, you have to let it, this person was this wonderful, amazing human being, and they weren't. They were just a piece of shit, and they were using you. And so once you realize that, which is probably the final and last stage, but it takes the longest because you're like, oh, why would somebody pretend to be a good person? Why would somebody do all that just for a place to stay? Or why would you do all that just for some sex? So once you realize all these things about the narcissist, you have to process it. Now, what happens is your ego gets involved. Sometimes people want revenge. I know I want revenge. I want to, I want to do some damage. But you just have to process. You have to sit with it, and you have to understand that a narcissist is just basically a grown boy or a grown girl that's never really going to be right. They don't. This is the game they play. You fell for it, and it's not. It was never personal. This is what they do to everybody. They have years of practice doing stuff like this. So once you realize it was all a game, once you realize it was just some BS from the start, once you realize that the person was not even really a real person, it was fronting or acting like acting in certain ways. Once you realize all this stuff, you have to let it go. Now, this is not easy. For me, it took years. It took therapy. I wound up doing. I wound up taking a different route. I wound up using ayahuasca, um, Cambo, and all these spirituality drugs. Doing a lot of meditation, just working real hard on myself, and but after all the work, which took years, because I had all these narcissists in my life around me all for a good 30, 40 years. So once I realized that, and sometimes still I'll be like, maybe there's a little hope, but no, there's no hope. You let it go. You have to let it go internally. Somebody I recommend would be Melody Tiona Evans, I think her name is. She talks about letting it go on an energetic level, like just forgiving and letting it go. And once you let it go, you have to understand that you just let go of fantasy. The narcissist created this fantasy. You were in it, and it was a game, and you just move forward. And I'm not trying to make it sound like it's gonna be the easiest thing to do because one of the hardest things I ever had to do was to let people go that meant no good to me. But once I was able to do it, everything changed around. Now narcissists can't let me go. I'm like, what the hell? so so now if you I run into narcissists and they like won't. You realize how needy and clingy they are because they won't let you go after you first learned how to identify them and you learn that you don't need closure. Because really, at the end of the day, in any relationship, you don't need closure. Sometimes people ghost, people just leave, people die, and you have to realize that the time you have. One of the things I learned, I'm sorry, is that the time that I have on this planet, I appreciate people while I have them in my face, in my presence. I appreciate the time. I make the most of it. I maximize it because you never know what will happen. So if something does happen, you able to close it out with, last time I seen them, I showed them all kind of love. And that's how I'm able to let go of even non-narcissistic people if they just decide they just want to move on for whatever reasons. So once again, closure, you close the door. You let it go. You remove your ego, forgive yourself, and release all the pain and close the door yourself. It takes a long time, but it's worth it. And then you'll be able to close other relationships. You won't need closure as much. So once again, I'm ATL Black, and this is Defeating the Narcissist channel. I hope you have a great night. Just like and subscribe. Thank you.